Welcome back to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're going to tell you about April Wilkens, Part 1.
Don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the description for the links of all of our podcast platforms, CashApp, and Buy Me a Coffee. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. As always, tell your friends.
Yep.
Sorry about last week, guys. We had major technical difficulties because for some reason, none of our episodes were posting or uploading. And for the life of us, we could not figure out what was going on. So we had to basically delete them. And so we're just going to try to upload them later on this month and just do it that way. So anyway, so was April Wilkens?
April Wilkens, yes.
Part uno.
Yes. And this is another Oklahoma case, y'all. It is in the works for some new stuff to happen, but that could take a while. And there's a lot of information online about it, so it caught my attention. And I'd heard about the case, but not the case details. So I went ahead and did a little deep dive. And there's a podcast out there, too, called Panic Button. And April's story is season 1. So if you want details or to hear from her herself or her family, then you can definitely go check that out. They did 8 episodes on it. So definitely check that out. And you'll hear things, too, on there that didn't make it into court. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so definitely go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Also, are we gonna do a follow-up on the Karen Reed?
I have been immersed in the Karen Reed trial every day.
Because I watched that one. I didn't really watch it. I was kind of overhearing it. Mm-hmm. And the one where she was trying to represent herself. And
that's Lori Vallow.
Oh, okay. So are we going to do that one too?
Well, that one's a quick update. She's just getting ready for her next trial.
Okay.
And so her and the judge kind of got into it the other day.
All right.
Yeah.
So be prepared. We're going to do an update on Karen Reed and Lori Vallow.
Yeah. Karen Reed is doing a retrial right now. So like I said, I've been watching that every day, and it's one that I can actually watch in front of Darren at night. So he's been catching little bits here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What a good one.
Well, that's the cover-up conspiracy one. So
yeah,
a lot of stuff coming out. New stuff. I'm like, how do you do a retrial and get all this new stuff?
You got all kinds of new trials starting to happen. It's Murdaugh is fixing to happen.
Well, Becky Hill just got arrested in that one.
And she was the one with the court, what was it called?
She was the court clerk.
Court clerk, yeah.
Clerk of courts, whatever.
The stenographer or whatever.
No.
She wasn't that one?
No, she's not a stenographer. She's a clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, don't hold me to that one. I was just, I thought that's what she was. But anyway, yeah, you got Murdaugh's, you got Karen Reed, Lori Vallow, and there's some more.
Well, I mean, Diddy's in trial right now, but I don't think we'll cover him. We all know he's a piece of shit. And then you've got...
Why not?
Because there's so much, and it's a lot.
I don't know. I think it'd be popular.
Well, yeah, it'd be popular. Everybody's covering it, though. There's like a bajillion people out there. But I guess we might do our take on it.
Yeah, do our take on it.
That'll be a very explicit episode.
Ain't no party like a Diddy party.
The diddler, isn't that what you called him before?
The diddler.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing April Wilkens' case here today in 2 parts because there is a lot to get through. And I want to preface this with saying that we will be expressing our opinions, which we are entitled to. And we will be talking about what came out in court and what was found online. This case involves a local prominent businessman and his family from where we're at. So we're not trying to get sued. We're just telling you about the case. And there's also a big trigger warning for domestic violence because there's going to be some things. I didn't go into graphic detail, but we are going to be saying some things that might be triggering. This is not confirming or denying that any of these things happened or didn't happen. This is just a warning that this is April's version of events, and this is what she says happened. Okay?
Yeah, and I hate that we have to explain what a trigger warning is.
Yes.
I mean, you guys are listening to true crime. Obviously, something bad happened.
Right.
If that type of stuff triggers you, I'm sorry. You really shouldn't be listening.
Well,
I mean,
some things are more triggering than others.
I know, but the whole point is that if you're triggered by something and it's within a true crime setting,
Right.
and everything, especially with the stories and stuff like that. If that's stuff that's triggering to you, then, I mean, really, I don't know. I mean, to me, if that was triggering to me, I wouldn't be listening.
Right.
I mean, that would be one of the things that I would not do.
That's a self-care thing.
Exactly.
Take care of yourself. Anyway. But, so now that that's out there, let's talk about April. April was raised in Kellyville. Her parents had both grown up in abusive households, so they unfortunately carried that through to their kids as well. And I always say to our kids and their friends is that you'll learn two things from your parents, what to do or what not to do. So if you learn nothing else, it's one of those two things. Now, her dad was an amputee, and both of her parents, Rex and Louise, they owned Schneider Orthotics. They had a type of relationship where Louise would leave and come back again and again and again, which is common. One time, while she was trying to leave with the kids, he got his gun and he threw the kids in the bathroom and threatened to shoot them if she tried to take them. Not because he wanted them, April said, or actually it was April's sister. It was just a tactic to get her to stay, right? And that's what a lot of people do. They're going to use your kids. One time Louise left Rex and left April and her brother with him. And then 2 years later, like no contact with the kids or anything, just randomly 2 years later, April says that they go and pick Louise up. And that's how she found out that she had a 2-year-old sister named Mary. So I guess when her mom left, she was pregnant and nobody knew. Well, the kids didn't know because they were kids. But that's how she found out, oh, you've got a sister and she's 2. And she had no idea that it was going on. And then on the way home, the little brother asked a question and Louise answered the question. And they said it was a normal response and it wasn't, snarky or hateful in any way. But Rex popped him in the mouth and told him not to talk to his mother that way. So it's that kind of thing.
So immediately up to the same old shit.
Immediately on the ride home.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, April was a smart kid. As she got older, she became a cheerleader. And she did get diagnosed with anorexia at the age of 15, but she kept pushing forward. She graduated from high school 2 years early and went to OSU for clinical.
What?
Sorry. My notes are jumbled right there. So she went to OSU and then she went to Northwestern University in Chicago for an accelerated program in orthotics and prosthetics. Now she met a man named Eric Wilkens in 1990 and they had a son named Hunter. That didn't slow her down either. She was in her master's program in Chicago and her now husband Eric was an undergrad at the University of Oklahoma. She graduated with her master's at 21 years old. So that was in 1991. And all of that long distance and that relationship between Chicago and Oklahoma was not good for it. So they ended up getting divorced in 1993. And they had like a week on, week off custody situation with Hunter. And he says, even now, she was a great mom. He loved being with her. He loved being at her house. His only complaint was that she made him eat soy and other healthy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Moms.
Moms.
Moms, am I right?
Now, in September of 1995, April goes to Don Carlton Acura of Tulsa, and that's at 47th and Memorial. And she's looking into leasing an Acura Integra. Apparently, she went up there several times for this process. And then during one of those times, she was briefly introduced to Terry Carlton. Now, this is Dawn's son. Now, she didn't know who it was. It was just a quick sales guy was like, this is April. April, this is Terry. And they shook hands and went on about their business. And then he got her phone number from her paperwork. He called her and let her know that he owns that dealership. And he was just following up with a phone call about her experience there. Sure, Terry. Now, that turned into a lunch date to see if she was interested. And she was. And that led to drinks at his house later in the week. Now, he wanted to take her on more of a date because they'd just kind of been getting together for little random things. So he flew her to Dallas in a private plane to spend their weekend with his friend Robert. And April describes him as a gentleman. I'm talking about Terry. That he, when they were in Dallas, rented a limo to take them all to the bars and out to restaurants to eat. And This was not the kind of thing that she was used to, right? We've heard about her upbringing, and she's already married, divorced, and a single mother. So now it's like, here's this guy coming in and sweeping me off my feet. And she fell for him hard, not going to lie. Apparently around here, I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but I did not know this until this case, that apparently local media would invite community rich people prominent business owners on trips. And so they went to lots of places that you're going to hear about. First was Jamaica. And on Christmas Eve of 1995, he proposed to her with a $25,000 engagement ring. Now that's 1990s money. And they planned for an April wedding in 1996. So very fast.
And so what? That put him at like 8 months from the time that they met to marriage?
Yes. So from the time they met till the time their wedding was being planned for was 8 months. Yes.
I mean, sometimes, people know, they know when they know.
That's right. And he was good to her.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all the time too that she had shared custody. So she didn't always have Hunter with her. And she tried to keep the time that Hunter spent around Terry at a minimum until, they got a little more into it.
Yeah.
But Hunter has said that Terry basically spoiled him when they were around each other. He bought him stuff all the time, let him do what he wanted, things like that. Life was good for them until it wasn't good for them. After the engagement ring was on her finger, she said Terry started being very critical, angry at nothing, and finding reasons to get onto her. So she called off the wedding. They had their first bout with physical violence, according to April, on her birthday in 1996. They only lived 8 blocks from each other around Brookside, so he choked her that night. She got free and ran all the way home to her house. She says by the time she got into her house, her phone was ringing off the hook. She picks it up and it's Terry saying things like, "I can't believe that happened. I don't normally do things like that. Let's just start over." And so they stayed together.
Man, ladies, trust your gut.
Yes. Red flags.
In your gut, if it feels like a piece of crap, get out.
Get out early, too.
I mean, good night.
Yeah. Now, after this, they took a 2-week vacation to Amsterdam and Paris. Now, this was the first time that he would sexually assault her. When they got back to the States, they started the whiplash-inducing, on-again, off-again kind of relationship, like what her parents had. Then they ended up going on another trip with KVOO. Now, this time, his parents and some other business owners were with them, too. And she said on this trip, she did cocaine with him for the first time. So he's been doing it for a while. This is the first time she did it. He got mad at her because she was talking to Hunter on the phone while he was trying to sleep. So he started hitting her. He started physically assaulting her on her body too, like on her sides, which is another red flag. Because if someone's physically assaulting you like that and avoiding your face, it's probably an indication that it's not their first time. And they don't want anybody else to know, and they know you're going to keep the secret. So as long as there's nothing visible, you know what I mean? Red flags. Now, because of this altercation, okay, it was so loud that another guy that was on the trip with them, he was staying in the room next to them, and he heard it. So he came banging on the door and telling Terry, "I know all about you. Come out and fight someone your own size." Mm-hmm. So other people are hearing it. Other people are able to say, "Yeah, I witnessed this violence. I witnessed the noises." And then I said that to somebody one day and they say, "How do you know it wasn't her hitting him?" And I was like, you don't, because they were the only 2 in the room. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I didn't think about it. I didn't go that way.
Yeah.
Now, it does come out later in court that he did have other ex-girlfriends, ex-wives that said that he was physically violent with them as well. So maybe that's why I went the other direction right off the bat, because I already knew that he had several women that said he was like that. And when she got home from that trip, she says that she tried to file a protective order against him, but it doesn't say why she couldn't or if she didn't, because it just said she tried. So I don't know what happened there. And you may be able to form your own conclusion as the story goes on as to what may have happened. She did call him, though, And she recorded that phone conversation. And you can hear that on the podcast too. She talked about him beating her. And he says that she always did stuff to piss him off and aggravate him. Now that's a classic. After this, he tells her that he's suicidal. So she takes him to her doctor, who starts treating him for, okay, let me butcher this. Guillain-Barré. It's French. So I'm not French, but that's how it's said to pronounce it.
Guillain-Barré.
Guillain-Barré syndrome. Yeah.
Okay.
So he starts treating him for that. On Valentine's Day of 1997, he tells her to come by his house because he has a present for her. Now she has Hunter with her, so he stays in the living room while she goes upstairs to see Terry and get her present. Now Terry's on the phone with his ex when April walks in, so she just turns around to leave. I guess they had already had conversations about that, and she had told him she didn't want him talking to his ex, and there he was on the phone with her. So she turns around to leave, but he knocks her to the ground and pins her down. Now, they hear Hunter come running up the stairs because that made a loud noise, and so he jumped off of her and was acting like nothing happened.
Did she call the cops?
She did call the cops.
Okay.
She called the cops from his house. Like, she stayed right there, but they didn't do anything. Now, it was that summer when she learns that he is now an IV drug user. He's not just using cocaine, snorting it or whatever. He's resorted to shooting up. She says he would leave money in a dresser drawer, and when the housekeeper came and then left, that money magically turned into methamphetamines. Funny how that happens.
Yeah.
It got up to about a $2,000 a day habit sometimes. That's a lot. Now, she gave him an ultimatum, me or the meth. And he chose the meth. So, bye. During this time, she had also taken over Schneider orthotics from her parents. So she's trying to run a business and she's trying to deal with this man. Now he would get into, she would get into financial obligations with Terry because she was having to take loans out from him to keep the business going. So she's kind of becoming dependent, more and more dependent on him. And then she made a choice that most people regret. She wanted to know what was so great about Terry's other love. And that's when she tried meth with him.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, from the outside looking in, okay, hindsight. Don't do it. Just don't do it. But at the time, she just wanted to see what it was all about, she says. Something happened after they used drugs, and he started accusing her of stealing a rare guitar neck. So he used to rebuild vintage guitars. So he had a bunch of expensive parts laying around. And she says that she was supposed to go and pick up Hunter for that weekend. So that was another thing I didn't understand. Why would you choose to do meth for the first time when you're supposed to go pick your kid up for a custody visit? But instead, she says that Terry held her against her will all weekend long, that he physically and sexually abused her, that he was holding her at gunpoint. He was trying to find that guitar neck, and he wasn't letting her leave until he found it. Yes. Now, he made her write him a check for $7,000 to cover the cost of the neck, which she did not have in her bank account. Remember, she's borrowing money from him. What makes me think she's got $7,000? But anyways, she writes him a check. And then later in the week, his drug dealer / housekeeper found the guitar neck. So he told April, you can just go ahead and stop payment on that check. Well, it was going to bounce all over green country anyway, so joke's on you, buddy. She didn't have it. He also had called the police on her that weekend, which is another problem that some people have in this case. He called the police on her, and when they came to his house, she said she told them what was going on, that he's holding me here against my will, that he's physically and sexually abusing me. And the cops said that she wasn't making any sense. She told them that she didn't feel safe, and they said that it wasn't their job to babysit her.
Oh, because it's his daddy's money?
Because his daddy had that money. That's what she said.
Well, see, and that's, and that's the sad thing about a lot of counties in Oklahoma. It all comes down to who has the most money.
True.
And that's who gets treated the best.
True. We see it a lot.
Yep.
I'm sure that's everywhere too.
Well, I know that's how it is here.
Definitely how it is here. Now, after this incident, she stopped seeing Terry. She was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't. Her business is going through bankruptcy. She's got other shit to focus on. So this is just adding to it. But I think right now we'll take a moment to hear from today's sponsor and then we'll come back to the story.
Yep. Be right back. If you're in a heated argument with your dryer, don't worry. You'll both cool down eventually. Or maybe you just need a washer and dryer. Don't get agitated. Take a load off.
Get your laundry set from My Laundry Solutions and let them iron out your problems. If you live in an apartment, get your set from them. They service them, and they have locations in Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. The most recent area is Lubbock, Texas, around the Tech Terrace area, with more locations coming soon.
So give them a call today, 800-535-4411.
Or go online to mylaundrysolutions.com.
And let them wash your troubles away.
So corny.
My Laundry Solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. They're good people.
Yeah. Very. They were what helps us out with everything, like the drawings and all of our little contests that we do and stuff like that. So
Yep. So go show them some love.
Yeah. Go check them out.
So we're at the part where April has now left Terry. She's gone. She's not, it's another one. I want to say it's not an on again, off again situation, but anyways, she's left him. And then somebody started breaking into her house. Like she would see a shadow of a man outside her window. She even heard somebody on the roof a couple of times. Like, what are you doing up there? She'd call the cops, but the person was always gone by the time they got there. Now her neighbor, Glenda, she did see Terry speeding away from April's house multiple times. And she told the cops that. One night, April got a phone call from her friend that she's been friends with since 8th grade, saying that she wasn't able to pay her mortgage and she needed to borrow some money. Now, by this point, the roles had flipped in their relationship, and Terry now owed April money, according to her. So she called him to see if he could pay her back some of that money so that she could give it to her friend to help her out. So April's friend and her husband go get April, and they go over to Terry's house. He writes her a check for the amount that she needs, but he also tacked on another $2,000. Now he told her to cash it and bring him the extra $2,000. He then gave her his car keys and his credit card, asking her to go to Walmart for him to get groceries and stuff for the house. Now she said at this time when they got there, he looked rough. Like he hadn't left the house in days, hadn't showered or eaten in days. And so she was like, he probably does need a bunch of stuff from Walmart and food. So she said she was happy to do it.
Why? I mean, they weren't together.
Right.
And he was, stalking her.
Right. Right.
So why?
Allegedly, she loved him. She cared about him. She's a caring person from all accounts of people who knew her.
Okay.
They weren't surprised that she would do something like this. Like she wouldn't want to see him like that. And so she's trying to help him out.
Mm-hmm.
Now at Walmart, she uses his credit card, but the signature doesn't match. So the cashier raises her eyebrows at her like, you're not Terry. So she just gave the cashier Terry's phone number to call him and verify that she had permission to use his card. Now that could have been anyone on the other end of the line, but the 90s. In this case, it was actually Terry's phone number, but he says that April does not have permission to use his card. And he tells them to hold her there because he's on his way. Now he rocked up in a Tulsa police car. That was his ride. He tells the cops that he doesn't want to press charges on April. He just wants to get his stuff and then he'll take April home. As usually happens in Walmart, April had run into her friend Shannon, who April told that Terry was mad at her because she took too long to get back to the house. Now, it was either that or she was trying to save face for stealing shit and using it. None of this incident makes sense to me, so do with it what you will. Now, April's flipping out internally on the way home because she knows that he's a violent person and now he's mad, and she is pretty sure what's going to happen when they get where they're going. Now, she thinks as rough as he looks, he probably needed that $2,000 to get more dope. So she decides, oh yeah, I'll just give him that money and then he can get his fix and then he'll be in a good mood and everything will be fine. So she gives him the money, but he still takes them back to his house. So when she gets out of the car, or when he pulls up and stops, she bolts out of that car. She's gone. But she doesn't go down the street. She doesn't go to the neighbor's house. She runs into his house.
What?
And then upstairs to a bedroom. Now, this door on this bedroom can be locked from the inside and the outside. It's almost like it has two separate locking mechanisms. So she goes in and locks the door. Now he comes up and he's like, oh, you want to stay in there? So he locks the door from the outside. Why you have this lock on a bedroom door? I don't understand. But this is what happens. So he locks it thinking he's trapped her in there. Eventually, he unlocks it to go in, but he realizes she's locked it from her side. Now, according to April, he breaks the door down and then he shoved a piece of bread that was wrapped and then I guess had a Valium inside of it. He shoves it into her mouth and makes her eat it. I can't talk today. I'm sorry. And then he physically and sexually assaults her and she blacks out.
A Valium pill wrapped in bread.
Yes. That's what she says. Now, apparently in this attack, he had hurt her lower back. So when she wakes up, she starts screaming that she is paralyzed because she can't move her legs. She tells him he has to call 911, and he does. They put Terry in handcuffs at the scene, and they put her in an ambulance and take her to Hillcrest Hospital, where they do a SANE exam. So it's SANE. It's a sexual assault nurse examiner exam to collect evidence for forensics when someone is sexually assaulted. Now, she has signs of sexual assault, according to this nurse, and she's all bruised up. A female cop did give her a ride home from the hospital, and April asked her to go by Terry's house to get her purse for her because she didn't feel safe going to get it by herself. But the cop said no, because Terry creeps her out. I was like, okay, you've got a gun though. Just go get it.
Yeah.
April finds out that Terry, although was put in handcuffs at the scene, he was not actually arrested. Sergeant Rick Helberg told them over the radio to uncuff him and just write up a written report. That's all they needed to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they did. Now, Terry came over with a form for her to sign saying that the intercourse they had that night was consensual. And she said, I'm not signing that. So he kept her with him until she promised not to cooperate with the cops so that the case couldn't go forward. She was like, I'm not signing it. And then he eventually broke her down to where she was like, okay, I'll just won't say anything. I'll just keep my mouth shut and I won't go to court and they'll have to drop the charges. So that's what happened. Now, he did also, well, I can't say he. Someone started stealing her mail after this. Mm-hmm. But we do know that Terry did go to Radio Shack and he got a bug that he put on her phone so that he could listen to her phone calls. He broke into her back door so many times that the locks didn't work anymore. And she had to put a bungee cord around the door handles to keep it shut. And then he broke that too. So she piled boxes and stuff in front of them so that he couldn't open the door. And so he just started breaking in through the front door. So.
Well, I mean, first of all, she needs to leave.
Yes.
Move.
Yes.
You know, call someone besides the cops.
Yes.
Something. Second of all, I didn't know you could buy bugs at Radio Shack in the 90s.
Yes.
That was a thing?
It was a thing, yes.
Oh, damn.
You could buy a little thing that you have in your car and you can sit outside people's houses and listen to them talking inside.
Well, okay, so I knew they had those.
Yep, and they had bugs you could put in phones, and they had little things you could plug in. It was like a tape recorder that you plug into the phone outlet, and every time the phone's picked up, it starts recording.
All right, you know way too much about this.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why later. That's for us to know.
That's a little unsettling.
This was all back in the 90s. Like,
sure.
I promise you this was the 90s.
No, I mean,
oh,
sure.
No, I don't do none of that. That wasn't me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was done to me. That's how I know.
Continue the story. You're
Okay.
just digging that hole. Digging that hole.
Stop it.
I'm digging that hole. Oh, he's digging up bones.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So he brags to April that every time she calls the cops, that it only costs him $500 because she'll call them, they'll show up, and he just pays them $500 and they leave.
Seed money.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, well, that explains so much because there was a lengthy list of domestic violence calls from April regarding Terry. And there was no arrest at this point for either one of them. So I'm like, okay, that does make sense. But there are other community services that you can call. Like you said, call somebody besides the cops. Yes. And we're going to get to those in a minute. Now, in the spring of 1998, she has a house alarm. And this alarm is tied to a panic button that she wears around her neck. And that's how they got the name for the podcast, Panic Button, because this is how scared she was. She would keep that around her neck, and no matter where she was, she could hit it, and it would ring the alarm at her house and call her alarm company, right? Who then calls the cops. You know what I mean? Like, it's smart. Now, she started hanging out with a man named Luke as well. And when she was with him, Terry would mostly leave her alone. Now, her and Luke knew some of the same people, so they became fast friends. He had connections to an undersheriff for Creek County. So some people were like, oh, he's an undercover. Some thought he was a snitch. Now, we don't know about that, but we do know that he was supplying April with drugs. So now that she's addicted right along with Terry, and Terry's where she was getting the drugs, now it's become Luke as where she's getting the drugs. He also gave April a .38 pistol to protect herself against Terry because she told him about all the abuse. And she had told Terry once that she had Hunter and couldn't have him around all the bullshit. You know, that was one of the times she left him. So he had threatened to hurt Hunter. So that's why Luke gave her this pistol. He's like, okay, if you're needing to protect your kid, this will help you. She had called Eric, which was her ex-husband, and told him that he needed to file for sole custody because she wanted to see her son, but she was in a position where it wasn't safe for him to come over to her house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, remember that her phone is bugged. So there is a recorded phone call between April and another friend after she got that gun from Luke. April says that even if Terry did break in, she would be too fucking nice to use the gun on him. But if he did, and if she did, that it would be justifiable homicide. So let that sink in. Terry did come to her house one day, and Luke actually opened the door and let Terry in. Well, Terry goes to the back of the house where April is, and according to April, he starts attacking her. So she's yelling for Luke, but Luke never comes to help her. She pulled out that .38, right? She's like, I've got this now. Because she said that he was trying to sexually assault her. But when she pulled the trigger, it just clicked. Now, he's telling her while he's attacking her that he is God and that he is Satan. So he's saying he's both. And then they hear the front door open and Terry takes off running. Because it seems that when Luke opened the door to let Terry in, he left the house and left April there alone with Terry. And then when he came back, it scared Terry enough to where he ran off. What?
So he gave her a gun to protect herself.
Right.
And then left her alone with him.
Right.
And
Right.
Who's Luke again?
He's her friend / new dealer.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, some say that they were a little more than that.
Well, that's a friend.
So some are saying that they were actually, kind of together in a relationship. But she says that they were just really good friends.
Well, I can tell you this much. If you have a friend that's also your dealer.
Yeah. They're not your friend.
They're not your friend.
No, they're not. You're money for them.
Yes.
You're a client.
They could give two shits about you.
Right. Right.
Just say it.
But now, because of this incident, Terry knows that she has a gun, right? So he breaks into the house later and steals it. So now she doesn't have a gun. Sadly, I can go on and on and on about all the instances where they had problems and altercations, but I'm pretty sure you're getting the picture. So there's a couple more incidents that I will have to mention because they're important to the lead up. So one night, Terry came to her house in the middle of the night, banging on the garage door with something metal. She called the cops, and they actually get there and catch him on her property that time. So she made it in time. This time, he was arrested, and he was booked for transporting a loaded firearm, which is a misdemeanor. Now, the police report says, quote, "This residence has a history of domestic violence and threats," end quote.
So there's a cop out there who actually says it.
Yeah, he actually says, okay, this is a domestic violence situation. You need to go to jail.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah, this is Officer DeWitt, so good job. He even helped April get an emergency protective order in the middle of the night. And he tells her that if Terry tries to contact her, that she needs to call the cops. This is, it's a protective order. There's no contact. The next morning, sure enough, Terry is calling her from the Tulsa County Jail. So she calls the cops because that's what the cops told her to do. She's on her neighbor Glenda's porch when Officer Tallman walks up telling April that she's starting to annoy him, talking about all the phone calls she has to make. And he was tired of it. Well, if he did something about it, maybe she'd stop calling you. But anyways.
You know what? I mean, it's your fucking job.
This is your job. But this is how many times she has called them that they're like, ugh, you're starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, my bad. Ugh. She tells him that Terry has called her, and he says that the protective order doesn't say that he can't call her. She's like, well, the cops told me that he can't call me. So, but anyways, Terry eventually does get out of jail, but he doesn't go to court on March 25th, so he ends up with a bench warrant being issued for his arrest. He also went back to April's house when he got out and cut her phone lines so that she could stop calling the cops. Now, April is...
Who cut the phone lines?
Terry did.
Oh.
When he got out of jail, he went to April's house and cut the phone lines outside so she didn't realize that he was doing it. Now, April's a very active person. She's out running about 2 months later after Terry had been arrested, and she is running back towards her house when she stops in a church parking lot because from that parking lot, she could see her driveway and Terry's car was in her driveway. And she says, it was kind of like a situational thing because here he is. She knows it's not going to be good. She's in a church parking lot. So she said she just started praying out loud. Like she's trying to talk to God at his own house. You know what I mean? Like straight to the source. And while she's talking to God, she hears a voice.
God?
Not even close.
Oh.
It is good old boy, Officer Tallman. The one that said she's annoying him. Now, he had pulled up because he's seen her. So he's like, hey, what's up? Now, since she's talking to herself, he uses that as probable cause to search her.
Wait a minute. The one that was annoyed that she calls all the time?
Yes.
So he found it weird that she was over praying because somebody's in her driveway.
A guy who has a protective order against
But
him.
he didn't find it weird that somebody's in her driveway that's not supposed to be in her driveway and decides to search her?
Yeah, he searched her.
Way to go there, Tillman.
Tallman, yeah.
Whatever. Tallman.
So, but
jackass.
I'm telling you. Now, while he's searching her, he does find a syringe because remember, she's in active addiction right there along with Terry. Instead of arresting her for paraphernalia, which is what they usually do, he does a 5150 on her. So because she's talking to herself, he calls EOD, which is a mental health crisis response team. And they take her to Parkside Mental Health Institute and hold her for 6 days. Bro, this dude is in her driveway.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she didn't need some type of help, but this is the reason the victims don't come forward. I'm just saying, anyways. Terry tries to see her while she's in Parkside for those 6 days, and she's like, no, do not let him in here. Now, on day 6, this is why she was only there for 6 days, April catches a nurse in a heated Uno game and manages to steal her keys. Now, she lets herself out and she goes home. Now, she's at home when Terry comes through the front door, not knocking, not doing anything. He breaks through the front door with her .38 in his hand. He took her to his house and he kept her there for days, attacking her repeatedly. She says that he was deranged during this time. Like this was a whole nother level of where he had been before. He was telling her that he was going to slit her throat and then he was going to hurt himself. Now, after one attack, she did manage to get free. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to say that doesn't make any sense. So just put your hats on. She got free from him, but then she put 3 guns into a bag and she got a handful of his syringes and put them in the bag with the guns. Now, she says that his family didn't believe her that he was in active addiction and that he was an IV user. So she said she wanted proof to show them. But that doesn't prove that those are his syringes. That just proves that she has a handful of syringes.
Exactly. But
I digress. She ran across the street to the neighbor's house, and this time, instead of calling the police, she called the Domestic Violence Intervention Services. So remember, there's more places to call than just the cops. But because there was a threat of life, they are responsible for calling the cops. So when she made the call to them, they had to make the call to the cops, telling them what was going on. So you have April across the street with a bag of guns and syringes. And then there's Terry who answers the door with a guitar in his hand. So he comes out like strumming, looking all chill and calm, right?
Yeah.
Now, since April has told them that he has threatened to hurt her and himself, the cops end up taking both of them to the Parkside mental health facility this time.
I mean, it sounds like they both need help.
I agree with that 100%. But Terry is released a couple of hours later. April is not. She's held. A few days into her stay, they tried to restrain her and she flipped out. So they transferred her to Eastern State Hospital in Veneta. There, Nurse Betty is telling her that it looks like she's suffering from PTSD. Now, back in the 90s, that wasn't something that was talked about a lot. So April's like, what? What is happening? They put her on lithium. So now she's getting dosed with lithium. Her first 3 days there, Terry tries to see her 3 times. So every time she gets admitted somewhere, he's calling and calling and calling. Now, on that 3rd time, she did allow him to come to the facility because there's people around her. Nurses and them don't leave you alone at visitation because things can be slipped to you. You can do things to someone or yourself. You're just not left alone. He rolls up in a brand new red Acura with balloons tied to it. And he tells her that this is her birthday present.
Do we know if he drove all the way from Tulsa to Veneta with those balloons attached to it?
I need to know, right?
Because that would have been funny. he just walked into his dad's dealership and was like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Took the keys and went out there and
yeah. I'm thinking he probably put them on in the parking lot before he went in, but the whole thing doesn't make sense. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm surprised. I'm thinking that there was a sale event going on,
right,
with the balloons,
right,
and he just went right on out, and the balloons.
He said, "I'll take that one."
Yeah. Ooh,
yes.
The red one's a nice one. We'll take that.
It is her birthday. Let's get them balloons.
Yeah.
Now he tells her that she can have this car if she admits that she left him because she's in love with somebody else. Now, why would you give a brand new car to someone who left you for somebody else? And I'm pretty sure he was talking about Luke. But anyways, she said, if that's what you need to hear to understand that we're not going to be together, then okay. So she's like, sure, I left you for somebody else. Nurse Betty would later testify that Terry was in a hostile state when he was there that day. And I will throw in here too that Terry had been telling her that it was him that was telling the cops to have her committed every time. So he's like, I'm the one pulling the strings. And so she's literally begging him to tell them to let her out, thinking that this is how much power he has. This is like the manipulation is rampant. They released her on Monday, April 27th, saying that she needed substance abuse treatment. Not where she was. She needed to go to a facility for substance abuse. I agree. So they sent her to a place in Tulsa for that. They're like, you don't need to be all the way out here in Bonita. You can do that right in your own backyard. So in true April fashion, when she got to Tulsa in the little van that they transported her in, she ran away from them and she hitchhiked back to Brookside. The next 24 hours are what will change April's life forever. But I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger because this is a pretty long episode and there's a whole nother one to go. So I think we're going to stop right here and we'll pick up on part 2 where you can get from 24 hours before to what happened and now to today. Cool?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right. So make sure that you guys come in for part 2, which will be Friday.
Friday.
All right.
If you have a case that you would like to hear us cover, you can email us at dna.truecrime@gmail.com or message us on social media. If you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe.
And as always, don't forget to tell your friends because they deserve to hear our stories too.
They do.
So until next time, guys, we will talk to you later.
Bye.